Hey guys, today I'm going to be replacing the starter on this 2008 Nissan Armada. This is the tools I'll be using today: long needle nose plier, electric impact gun, a magnetic stick, flathead screwdriver, a diagonal cutter, 2 hose clamps for the coolant hose, a vice grips for the hose clamps, 10, 12, 14, 1/4 socket, 3, 8, 14mm socket, 1.5 14mm socket, an electric air ratchet, and 2 3/8 ratchet. One is angled so that I could get into tight spaces, and I'm using a breaker bar 1.5 because the starter bolt is really tight. It's about 34 foot-pounds, so I don't have a 3/8 air ratchet, so I'm using the breaker bar for the back. So you'll see in the video it's going to be a tight space, and also it's very tight bolt. So that's why I'm using the 1.5 breaker bar with the 14mm socket right here. And make sure to have masking tape for the air intake hose. Oh, and also make sure to get this pry tool for some of the electrical connector clips that's attached to the bracket. You want to disconnect your negative battery terminal. It's a 10mm nut that you remove. Make sure to cover it with a rag or something so it doesn't touch the battery terminal. Now you're going to remove this 2 8mm bolt that's holding this engine cover down. And then you're just going to lift it up and pop it out of its grommet over there. Now I'm going to take the air intake assembly out. It's held on by 2 clips. And then you're going to remove this clip right here, the connector, 2 hose, and 1 of the clamp right here. I'm using a needle nose plier to remove this. Squeeze on the clip on top to pull out. I'm using a vice grip to compress this clamp right here and move it out of the way. Same with this one. And then unscrew this clamp over here with a flathead screwdriver. And make sure to pry this hose out. It's really stiff. Once you get all of that out of the way, you want to tug on this and pull it out. Up and out. Once the air intake assembly is out, I will be removing the PCV hose right here and all the injector connector and the Evap connector right here out. And then I'm going to remove the 2 bolt that's holding this bracket out as well, so I could get to the bolt that is holding down the intake manifold. This is on the right side of the engine if you're facing it. And then the left side, I will be removing the bolt bracket in the back right there that's holding down the transmission dipstick and all the injector connector and the PCV hose right there on the left. And also pinch off the coolant hose. There's 2 of them, 1, 2 that's going into the throttle body. And then I'm going to disconnect all the bolts that's holding down the manifold, the intake manifold as well. And then I'm going to lift it up and move it to the right. This is a 10mm bolt. Moving the hose clamp. Disconnecting the injector connector. You pinch on the bottom and you pull up. There you go. If it's too tight, sometimes you need a needle nose plier to pinch and pull up. The last one is really deep in there, so I'm going to use a needle nose plier and a flathead screwdriver to pry it up. There you go. Need a long needle nose plier and a flathead screwdriver to pry it out. Now I'm going to clamp this coolant hose line. Make sure you clamp both sides of the hose before you remove the hose. Alright, remove the coolant hose on the throttle body. Alright, I'm going to remove the 10mm bolt on this bracket. So now I'm going to remove the injector's connector right here. So same thing, you're going to squeeze on the connector and pull up. So if the connector is tight, go ahead and use a needle nose plier. It's a lot easier. Especially for the back, harder to reach. Make sure to disconnect the throttle body connector right here. Once you have everything disconnected, go ahead and remove the 10 bolt that's holding down the intake manifold. Last but not least, make sure to remove this PCV hose as well. Might have to move the bottom as well because you're going to be swinging it to the right side. Now in order to remove the intake manifold, there's 10 bolts, 5 on each side, and I will show you the sequence on how to remove it first. So there is 10. So if you start in the middle, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the back, way back there. So to remove it, you're going to go in the reverse order, which is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 in the middle. So that's how we're going to remove the bolt. And then when we reinstall it, we're going to do the exact opposite, which is 1, 2 in the middle, and then so on and so forth until we get to the outer bolt. And that's how we're going to remove the bolt and install it. So I'm going to start with the hardest bolt, which is all the way in the back. This might be a good thing. Make sure you have a magnet stick once you loosen the bolt so it doesn't drop down into the engine. There you go. Now onto the left side. It's really difficult in there too. I think the left side you're just gonna have to feel it to make sure it's in there. So the left side is very deep by this bracket here. If you follow this bracket and then you go down in the back, that's where the bolt is. I can't show it to you because it's deep in there, but you can feel it once you reach all the way in the back. So I'm going to start with a extension and a 10mm bolt or 10mm socket to get to it, and I'm going to use the 3/8 ratchet to get loosen it. There you go, I got it in. Now I'm going to use my 3/8 ratchet to break it loose. Back number 9 bolt. Once you have all the bolts removed, go ahead and lift this intake manifold out and over to your right side. So these clips are still in the way, so I'm going to remove it. When that's done, go ahead and lift and move it to the side. Actually, this wire harness is holding down as well. So remove the Evap connector and unclip the wire harness from the bracket. Now go ahead and lift out of the way. There's also a clip right here by the bracket. And there you have it. The starter is right there. It's held on by two 14mm bolt. Make sure to wipe all your intake port where the gasket sits so that it will be flush when you put it back in with a brand new intake manifold gasket. Make sure to mask up the intake manifold so nothing drops down there. You can put masking tape or rags into the hole to prevent anything from falling into it while you're working on the starter. Now let's remove the starter. So now we're going to open this cover to remove the 12mm nut in here, and also remove this clip right here by the bracket to get access to the connector right here for the starter. And then after that, you remove two 14mm bolt in the back right here. For the connector, you just press on this clip and pull it. And the wire connecting to this bracket, I'm just using a clip prior. There you go. So what I'm using is a Flex 1.5 inch long extension breaker bar with the ratchet, of course, to break the 14mm bolt loose, because this is so tight. Alright, so I've finally broken the bolt loose. Now I'm going to loosen it. The last bolt. And you pull the starter out. And the last bolt is a 12mm. Here's the starter. Alright, now compare the old one with the new one. The wire connector is the same, although this one came all broken and cracked right here, so whoever delivered it smashed the connecting plastic piece right here. I think it should be alright. I just have to connect it and then zip tie this wire to the bracket so it doesn't move. Looks pretty identical. The mounting bolt in the back right here compared to the new one, pretty much the same. So now we're gonna put the new starter back into the vehicle and see. So I'm going to put the starter back in. Tighten the 12mm bolt. I say tighten this to about 10 foot-pound. Tighten the starter bolt in the back here to 34 foot-pounds. I'm just going to hand tighten with the ratchet. And for the new starter nut right here, it's size 13mm. I'm just going to use the old one, which is a 12mm. Make sure to reconnect the connector, slide this one in the back. And then snap it in place. There you go. And since this one doesn't have a clip to this bracket right here, let's see if I could zip tie it. So I zip tied it in place. Now I'm going to trim the excess. Next I'm going to replace the gasket for the intake. There's 8 of them. I'm going to replace with new ones. All you need to do is just pull from the bottom with the tabs right here, and it comes out like that. Make sure to wipe off the oil. The new gasket comes with the throttle body gasket. We don't need it because I didn't remove the throttle body. So I'm going to put this aside. Go ahead and put your new gasket back in. Alright, now we're going to remove the masking tape, and we're going to slide back the intake manifold. Alright, so now we're going to put all the 10 bolt back in place. We're going to go back reverse how we removed it. So we're going to go 1 in the middle, 2 on the side right here on the right, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over here, 9 all the way in the back, and then 10 on the right side. And we are going to tighten this bolt down to 7 foot-pounds. I'm going to put the 2 bolt in the front first so that it could be my guide so it doesn't slide off. I'm not tightening it, so I'm just putting it in there for my guide so the hole is in place. And now I could just put the first bolt in the middle, and then I'm just gonna tighten it in. So I haven't tightened the bolt down yet. I will tighten it once I get everything in place, because I don't want to tighten it and then accidentally over tighten it. Alright, number 9 is on the back firewall to the left, and then 10 is on the right. The last bolt is on the right. Now I'm going to tighten it with the ratchet to 7 foot-pounds. Tighten these bolts to 7 foot-pounds. Make sure not to over tighten because it's very skinny bolt and it's long. So that should be good. I'm hand tightening with a ratchet, but you could use a torque wrench if you have one. So I'm torquing it from inside out. Alright, now connect everything back on the right side. Clip all the fuel injector connectors, put back the bracket bolt, put back the PCV hose, and then we're going to the left side after that. This was the clip that I had to remove earlier that was in the way when I was pulling the intake manifold to the side. So just clip it back in. And now do all the fuel injectors. It should snap in place. You can hear it. And now the PCV hose. Slides into place. Make sure to pinch the clamp in place. And then slide it. Same with this one. For the left side is the bracket bolt right here for the transmission dipstick. All the fuel injector connector and the coolant hoses, and this hose as well, and the PCV hose. $10mm bolt, fuel injector connector, PCV hose, next is the two coolant hoses right here. And then remove the clamp. Alright, make sure, don't forget the throttle body control connector and the Evap connector as well, and the clip on top. This is what I had to remove to get the more access so that I could move this to the side. So I had to unclip this part. So make sure to put that back in place. Alright, now put your airbox assembly back in. Connect the clip back in and the connector and the hose. Put the clamp back in. Now put your engine cover back on. Make sure the two prongs sits on the grommet. This snaps in place. And tighten the bolt down to 5 foot-pound. Last, you're going to put your negative battery terminal back in. Tighten it down. And then now turn on your engine to make sure the starter works. And it does. And that's it, guys.